What is up? Kashtira is finally here. The much anticipated toxic banishing face down deck is finally in Master Duel. Not at full power, thankfully, but they've got Fenrir, Unicorn, some of the key cards. So I reached Master 1 with a Punk version of the deck. You can try to play Pure, but it's absolutely horrible. I really don't recommend doing that. It's an absolute bricky mess, and the Punk version just makes it significantly better. So I will show that off in this video. Here's the deck list that I ended up settling on towards the end of the season. I did make changes throughout, but I feel pretty good about this one. So Kashtira is an archetype of level/rank 7 monsters, most of which are psychic, but the Rise Heart is a warrior. They focus on banishing your opponent's cards face down, which is pretty messed up and makes it one of the most toxic archetypes ever released. Having your cards banished face down before your turn even begins can be very oppressive, especially if you're playing a deck that relies on like a particular card that's limited or like a power 1 of, and it can just get banished and you can just lose on the spot. I really hate this archetype. I hate playing against it. I don't really like playing it either, but in the Punk version it's somewhat tolerable because Punks at least are somewhat interactive, and this version I'm not playing Dimension Shifter, which most versions of like if you're playing Pure, you definitely play Dimension Shifter because you don't really care about the graveyard and you just want to keep banishing stuff. But with that aside, let's go into the main cards of the archetype. So we have Fenrir, one of the most anticipated cards released in recent memory in Master Duel. It came into the game semi-limited, so you can only play 2 copies. Part of this is because it's like very generic. Not only is it strong support for the Kashtira archetype, obviously, because it can search any Kashtira monster, but it's basically like a better version of Pankratops. It can be played in any deck. It's a big 2400 beater. You can also banish your opponent's one of your opponent's face-up cards face down, and you can just special summon himself for free. And it's also not it's not once per turn. So even if they like destroy your Fenrir, you can just summon another one. Yeah, so he's very good. Obviously, you play max out on this card. He searches a Kashtira monster, and then if your opponent activates a monster effect, so this is a trigger effect. You can target one face-up card your opponent controls and banish it face down. So the one thing that's really important to understand about these cards is that these effects are trigger effects. They're not quick effects. So it's not like they activate a monster effect and then you do like chain link 2 Fenrir, target a card to banish it face down. That's not how it works. It'll trigger on the new chain. So that's just something very important that you have to understand. That it took a lot of people a lot of time to figure out in the TCG. They just didn't really understand it. But it's a trigger effect, not a quick effect. So it'll trigger on a new chain after your opponent's monster effect resolves. Keep that in mind. So Fenrir will banish the face-up cards face down. Unicorn rips your opponent's extra deck. So he's just like Fenrir, you can just special summon him if you control no monsters. That's the special summon is not once per turn. And then during your main phase, you can add 1 Kashtira spell from your deck to your hand. Right now, we only have Kashtira Birth in the game. Later, we will get Kashtira Theosis, which makes the archetype like 10 times better because it's basically an ETLE for the deck. But Birth is a very good card as well. So yeah, Unicorn allows you to search that, so you definitely max out on this guy. And then similar to Fenrir, he has a trigger effect. If your opponent activates a monster effect, on a new chain, you can look at your opponent's extra deck and banish 1 card from it face down. So it's pretty messed up. So like if you special your Fenrir, you try to search Birth and your opponent ashes it. On new chain, you can just look at their extra deck for free and just get rid of 1 card. So you can see what they're playing. And then, like, if they're playing tier, you can just get rid of the kit, and then it makes it a lot harder for them to come back and get into the game. Yeah, it's very toxic, like I said. Then we have Kashtira Ogre. I think it's pretty important to play it, at least in the Master Duel version of the deck. You don't have to technically play him, but him in combination with Preparations, it gives you a very good grind game. And then his effect, if your opponent activates a monster effect, is to look at the top 5 cards of their deck, and you can banish 1 of the cards face down and place the rest on the top of the deck in the same order. So you can basically choose their top deck and banish whatever card you don't want from their face down. We have Rise Heart. In this version, I'm only playing 1 because you don't really want to see it in your opening hand. It's something that you would search off of Fenrir in the Punk version. In the Pure version, you'd play 3, most likely, but yeah, if you control a cash monster, he's a level 4, by the way, and he's a warrior, different from the rest of the archetype. It's kind of like the Vsauce lore, like how Rhinoheart is a warrior, and then the tier elements are Aqua. So Riseheart is a warrior. If you control a Kashtira monster, you can special summon him from your hand, but this locks you into Exceeds monsters, keep that in mind. And during your main phase, if this card was normal summoned or special summoned this turn, you can banish one Kashtira card from your deck for cost, by the way. Banish this for cost, and then you banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down. So this is what I'm talking about with the getting rid of your opponent's resources before they even get a chance to play the game. I mean, it's only 3 cards here, but in combination with other cards, it gets pretty annoying to deal with. So yeah, he's not bad. But I wouldn't play more than one in this version of the deck. Yeah, then we can just move on to the spells and traps. So Kashtira Birth is extremely powerful. It allows you to normal summon any level 7 monster without tributing. I mean, it doesn't give you an additional normal summon, but it just lets you do that for your normal summon. And then the other effect is crazy. During your main phase, you can special summon one of your non-Xyz Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, and it doesn't target. So if you like try to activate it and your opponent chains called by, you can still summon your dude back. It doesn't target. And then similar to the cash monsters, if your opponent activates a spell card or effect, so instead of monster effects, this one triggers when your opponent activates a spell card or effect. You can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard. It has to be exactly 3, so you can't do up to 3. But you target 3 cards, banish them face down. So this is really powerful against tier, and I mean it's just really powerful against most decks. It's really broken against Runic especially. Like this card just wins the matchup by itself. And because like they'll activate a Runic spell, then new chain, they'll chain link 1, target their cards with Fountain, chain link 2, you banish them face down with Birth, and they don't get any draws. It's very good. But you do have to control a cash monster to use that effect. Then we have Kashtira Preparations. This one is, yeah, like I said, it's very good for grind game. It special summons a cash from your hand or from your banished pile. And this one can actually summon Xyz monsters as well. It can summon Shang. And then once we get the newer Xyz, Riseheart, it'll be able to summon that as well, so keep that in mind. But yeah, it allows you to just keep summoning dudes and put on a lot of pressure for your opponent. That's something that rarely comes up, but if you resolve it, you pretty much win the game. If your opponent activates a trap card or effect while you control a cash, and this is already face up, you can look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, banish 1 card from it face down. So yeah, in this that effect is devastating, but it rarely comes up, obviously. Now we can go into the P.U.N.K engine. So the reason I'm playing the P.U.N.K engine is it allows you to, first of all, get a lot more value out of every card that you have. It allows you to get draw power, allows you to get into your hand traps, it allows you to get into your Kashtira engine more often, lets you make big dudes like Psychic and Punisher. It just makes the deck better in every way, essentially. So 3 Xiamen, of course, it's a one card starter by itself. You max out on Emergency Teleport, that should be self-explanatory. I don't know if you are familiar with these P.U.N.K combos, but you'll see them in the replays. They're pretty standard. So yeah, we have Shirakusai, which lets you fusion summon and go into Rising Carp. You'll see why you do that later. Wagon searches the field spell, which gets you, it's basically Pot of Greed, so it's pretty nice. Madam Spider lets you search the trap, which is an imperm. There is another P.U.N.K trap that's decent. It's a pop, and this one's an imperm, but I would much rather play this one because it's just much better. Yeah, 1 Deer Note. You can play more than one of this, but it's kind of bricky, so I would stick with the 1. Then 2 Foxy Tune and 2 Ogre Dance. This ratio is up for debate, definitely, but it's really a matter of ratios for a Chaos Ruler, because you have to banish the light and the dark to come back. I prefer to have it this way. I felt that this way is good, but you can play 3 of this or 3 of this. They still allow you to access the P.U.N.K engine regardless. Then we have the field spell. The field spell, if you activate life, if you pay life points to activate a Psychic monster's effect, you can draw 1 card. That's twice per turn. That does include Psychic and Punisher, because he is a Psychic monster, and you pay life points to activate his effect. So it's basically pot of greed every turn. What's there not to like about that? And it can also special summon a Punk from your hand. And you can also go into the non-engine for the main deck. So 3 Veiler, I'm playing Veiler instead of Imperm because of Chaos Ruler. It's something that you can add back. It's a free hand trap to add back, and also something to banish for Chaos Ruler to bring him back. Maxi, of course. Maxi tax. I mean, yeah, you already know why these are in here. Cross Out is particularly good in this version of the deck because if you're really in a pinch, you can banish like your Fenrir and then revive him back with Unicorn, or revive him back with Birth, or like preparations on the next turn. And yeah, it's kind of cope, but it's another out to Maxi, so I think you definitely got to play it. So that rounds out the main deck. It's 40 cards. Gotta love to see it. And into the extra deck, we have Rising Carp. Rising Carp allows you to access more of your Punk engine than if you don't play it, so I would definitely play this guy. He is an ultra rare, which sucks, but if you're playing Punk, you should definitely play this guy. And yeah, like I said, you'll see why he's good in the combos. And then we have Chaos Ruler, the best Synchro 8 in the game. It's absolutely broken. Obviously, you don't get as much value in this deck as you do like in Dragon Link or like Thunder Dragon, or those dedicated light or dark decks, but it allows you to access your Punk engine and allows you to go into Zombie Vampire, which is just crazy. It just adds a lot of consistency to the deck. Even if you don't hit like an Effect Veiler or something, just milling your cast dudes is nice because you can just survive them with Birth. So I would definitely play Chaos Ruler. Dragon Drive. So when he is summoned, you can pay life points to search a level 3 Psychic monster. So you can search Ghost Ogre if you have that. Oh, I didn't end up playing it because, I mean, it's really not worth it, I think. Ghost Ogre is just not good in this format. So you can search any of your other Punk cards. I usually find myself searching Madam Spider to get the trap. Then we have Baron, of course. You always make Baron when you can. Sometimes you got a normal summon Ash, which is fine because the deck isn't super normal summon reliant. Then we have Cheng Ying. You're playing a deck that revolves around banishing, so he's just a big dude and he disrupts your opponent. Psychic and Punisher, some decks have a lot of trouble dealing with him, and he's very easy to make and he pushes for game easily. I'm playing 2 copies of Big Eye, so in case your opponent rips your extra deck, like if they're playing Cash, I think you should play 2 of this guy. He allows you to permanently steal your opponent's monster, which is pretty strong. Number 89, Diablosis the Mind Hacker. If you play the TCG, you know all about this card. He's a absolute menace to society. I hate this guy. He's a generic rank 7. Once per turn, you can detach a material from your card, look at your opponent's extra deck, and banish 1 monster from it face down. So it's unlike Unicorn, they don't even have to activate a monster effect or anything. You can just do this if you can get 2 level 7s on the board. And it's very annoying. And then it has another trigger effect, which gets really insane. Like if a card your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down, while you control this card, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down equal to their face down banished cards. So it basically doubles the amount of face down banished cards that they have. So like if they have, like you use, for example, what happens most often is you use Riseheart to banish the top 3 cards of their deck face down. Then you use Mind Hacker to banish 1 card from their extra deck face down. So now they have 4 face down, and then on the trigger effect, it'll activate to banish 4 more cards from the top of their deck face down. And then they'll have 8. And then on their turn, if you banish another card face down, you'll double it again. So it really spirals out of control. And you just get rid of your opponent's entire deck. This card is super toxic. It should be banned. It is banned in the TCG. But with how Cash currently is, it's not nearly as strong. Because you can't you can't get a bunch of level 7s on the board to make both him and Shangri-Ira. So it's not that good right now, but if they add Cash support, they really need to ban this guy because he's an asshole. Dark Armed, the Dragon of Annihilation. It's very good for just generically popping your opponent's cards. You do have to have a card in your graveyard to be able to use the effect, but yeah, it's just 2 pops. Why not? Shangri-Ira. So similar to Mind Hacker, this card's not anywhere near its living up to its full potential until we get the new Cash support that was in the TCG set Photon Hypernova. but it's still decent. So on your standby phase, or each standby phase, not just your standby phase, you can special summon a cash monster from your deck. And then what makes this card very annoying is if each time your opponent's card gets banished face down, you can target any of their main monster zone or spell and trap zones to lock the zone. They cannot use it. And that is not once per turn, by the way. So if you like banish several of the cards, you can lock out their entire field potentially. But with how inconsistent the current cash engine is, you're not going to really be able to pull that off. But once we get the new support, oh my god, you're going to be seeing people get 5 locked, 9 locked, they'll lose their entire zones. It's so toxic. I hate this card. And then if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it can also protect itself for absolutely no reason. Yeah, toxic. Hope Harbinger, this card sucks. I honestly wouldn't play it. Play basically anything else over it, but I mean, you can easily make a rank 8s, but this card's just kind of bad. Zombie Vampire is very nice, though, in this version of the deck in particular, because it allows you to, well, I mean, obviously, the milling allows you to access your cash engine, but also lets you special summon while you resolve that. So you can also steal your opponent's monsters. It's very nice. Zeus, of course, we're playing an Xyz deck, kind of. I mean, it's a Synchro Xyz deck, but Zeus. Obviously, you played Zeus. Donner. So Donner is used for clearing your own board as well as clearing your opponent's monster. So the thing with these cash dudes is you have to control no monsters to special summon them. So if you have, like, I don't know, like a random P.U.N.K monster or something, you can't just special summon the Fenrir. So you're able to normal summon something else, then go into Donner, and then pop itself, and then one of your opponent's monsters, and now your monster zone is free. It's also good for dealing with the Guska, which can be annoying otherwise. So yeah, that is it for the main deck. We'll just hop into some replays. You can see what this deck can do. For this first replay, we have going first against Tyr. So I start with special summoning Unicorn. They immediately go Habnus. That's fine with me, because I'm going to be able to banish one of their cards from the extra deck. Although since I am turn player, my new chain is going to be Chainlink 1, so they will still get the summon kit, but I can banish Wukalos. And I activate a Guido, which is honestly fine with me, because I can use Birth to revive something that gets milled. So they mill, and then they summon kit. So I banish the Wukalos. So now he has to make Drago. And I'm in a perfectly fine position because my hand is pretty nice. Go Foxy Tune. Adam Spider, get the trap. Trying to bait out the Drago, but I'm just going to summon Baron instead. Go Cash, Birth. Goes Bedora. Like I said, the Birth doesn't target, but I only have 2 engraved, so it doesn't resolve. Then I normal summon Shirakusai to start playing punks. So now we got Rising Carp. And we go into Wagon. So that's why we make Rising Carp, by the way, is to summon out, get access to Wagon, which gets the field spell, and that gives us more draws. Then we activate the field spell. Dragon Drive. The Chainlink 1 Dragon Drive, Chainlink 2 Deer Nut to revive the level 8. Also, the other nice thing is that it plays around Bystios because he's a water, so they can't, like, Magnamoot banish him, and you get to level 8 on field. So then on a new chain, you draw 1. This is also a trigger effect. Then I use the effect to summon from hand. Use the Yaman to search. Don't really need to search, but I want the draw. Okay, that's a fine draw. So then we make Punisher, which Tyr does struggle to deal with generally, so it's just nice to make. Make Punisher, banish the Drago. He chains targeting Baron. That doesn't do anything because he only negates while he's on the field, so he's gone. And he already used Havness, so I'm just going to pop it and then set 1. So I have a Towers, gets huge, Baron, this, which is an Imperm. Goes Magnamoot, okay, cool. Activate Scream. I'm just going to hold the Baron as long as I can. The other thing I'm really worried about is him making Kaleido Heart. But I have the Imperm for it, so that's fine. So I'm just going to negate one of his things, Then he has to fuse, and then have an Imperm with a kit. Or Kaleido. So then he makes kit. Imperm, obviously. Okay, so then he uses talents to take control. Okay. So now he has my Baron, but he can't deal with the Punisher about this. His only play would really be to link off into Underworld Goddess, but that would get rid of everything on his field, and then I would just kill him on the next turn. So, yeah, Punisher gets huge. Main phase 2. He just scoops it up, because it's over. Next we have a going second replay against Trap Tricks. I have Veiler Ash. My hand is very good. Very good going second. So I'm going to Veiler the Sarah because it has 2 effects that are very good. Passes to me. Okay, so I start with Ogre Dance just to see if he baits out like a Gravedigger's Trap Hole. So he uses Time Space Trap Hole on the summon of Unicorn to shuffle it into the deck. I use Chainlink 2 E-Telly because if he has like a Floodgate Trap Hole, this will make it miss timing. And he can't activate it on the summon. Because it can only activate when your opponent special summons. Or normal summons. So then he uses Sarah. I'm going to Ash that because it gets a thing from deck. But he negates that with Chain Hole. Which is interesting. Didn't really expect that. But I have to banish an Ash from deck so that he doesn't banish a card from my hand. So he uses P.U.N.K to banish Xiamen. Okay, so I have to talents draw 2. And my draws are absolutely insane, so I get Wagon. Yeah, this is just not fair. Activate Field Spell, summon the Shirakusai from hand. You know the drill. Summon Rising Carp, draw 1. Use Rising Carp effect and draw into Birth, which is even crazier. I get this out of the deck and then draw another one. Sure, another Max C just in case he survives. He will not survive though. So, Chaos Ruler, which lets me mill and then hopefully get a name to summon back with Birth. He uses Gravediggers, which is fine with me because it just makes my Psychic End Punisher bigger. And I hit a Fenrir because I am a beast at the game. And I also grab back Veiler. So he is in a really bad position already. Now I summon back Fenrir. Get Riceheart, summon from hand, and then he knows it's over. GG. And next we have a crazy replay going second against Labyrinth. Check out my Labyrinth deck profile, by the way, for featuring the new support with Lady Labyrinth and Big Welcome. Okay, so they start with Ariana. Unfortunately, I don't have an Ash or anything. He opens Kuklok as well, which lets him activate it this turn. So he uses Big Welcome. He makes Lady here instead of Lovely. Because I guess he wants to summon it on my turn. Don't know. Okay, so I draw the trap, which is not the best, but... So I special Fenrir. I don't have anything to chain to the trap, so he gets to use Lady to set. One thing that's nice about starting with Fenrir is that it makes them think that you... Well, they don't really know what you're on, but he sets D-Barrier, which is a safe choice. So now he's going to rip a card out of my hand. Luckily, he hits this. So then I special Fenrir, try to search, get Birth. Then uses Big Welcome to bounce it back. Then I use talents to take control. And then I use Lovely to set the trap. I mean, it's kind of bait. Doesn't really matter that I set this. So then he compulses on summon, which is annoying, but I do have Ogre Dance, which will allow me to keep playing. So I get Deer Note. Deer Note has an effect that lets you summon either itself or another punk from hand. Okay, so now he has to use D-Barrier. He's been holding it this whole time. Because if he doesn't, I just make Baron. But this is fine with me, because watch what I can do. So Foxy Tune. Get out the Shirakusai. Now I make the fusion. I don't have a Deer Note in deck, but that doesn't matter. Because I can still make a rank 8. Zombie Vampire. So I'm going to detach mine. Mill. Summon. I only get a driver from the opponent. Nothing from me, unfortunately. But it's fine. I can make Zeus at least. And then rip one out of the extra deck with Unicorn. Force that out. He probably shouldn't have used that. He definitely shouldn't have used that. But it is what it is. So I rip the Chaos Angel because it's very easy for them to make. I go in phase 2, Zeus and pray. You just have to hope they don't top deck at this point because that's all you can really do. So just pass turn. And he just passes back to me. Only Veiler, which is not very good. Pass again. Sets one and passes. Okay, so now here, in this case, I could attack with Zeus and then just set on a 3k body with Veiler, but I would rather push for something better. Rather push for game. So I'm going to go into Donner, and normal summoning the Veiler. Pop the monster, it doesn't have to be face up, luckily. And I just special summon Unicorn. Search Birth. Because I already have Dude's Grave. Summon Fenrir, and that's just game. GG. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and also follow me on Master Duel. This is my ID. I make all my replays public. Thanks, and peace.